Good tips give the suspect's race, date of birth, sex, weight, and height, plus the descriptions of tattoos, if any. Good tips also give the jurisdiction where the suspect is wanted. Make of car and license plate. Good tips equal dollars. 1-800-273-TIPS. That's 1-800-273-TIPS. Treasure Coast Crime Stoppers works for you. That's 1-800-273-TIPS. Funded by the Office of Florida's Attorney General.
No hype, just facts. I'm Casey, and I invite you to tune into the Casey Ingram Show at my new time, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Hear from community leaders, learn about some of our great nonprofit organizations, get the latest updates from our elected officials, and meet the candidates. Even rock and roll legends have joined the show from time to time. I'm conservative but not divisive, bringing you the talk of the community. It is a fun and interesting hour beginning at 10 a.m. every Wednesday on WSTU AM 1450 and Facebook Live at The Casey Ingram Show.
You are listening to WSTU, Stewart, Jensen Beach, Hope Sound, Martin County's Heritage Station.
It's time now for the Casey Ingram Show on WSTU. The opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not necessarily those of WSTU. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. It's time to call in with your questions and comments at 220-9788, 220-WSTU. And now, here's Casey Ingram.
Well, welcome back to the second half hour. We have Chief Deputy John Budensiek in the seat next to me now. So really excited. First time guest, and I'm glad to have you here. How are you doing today?
I am great, and thank you for the invite.
Well, we got a lot of things to talk about today. And folks, if you have a question for Chief Deputy Budensiek, you can call the station at 772-220-WSTU. That's 220-9788. And of course, I'm always watching the Facebook Live feed for questions and comments as well. Before we get into the show, I want to thank Indiantown Marina. It's one of South Florida's best boat storage facilities, located inland on the Okeechobee Waterway, and they are a very well-protected hurricane hull. But also remember, they're a do-it-yourself and full-service boat yard, so if you need anything done on your boat or want to do it yourself, give the good folks at Indiantown Marina a call at 772-631-3272. That's 772-631-3272. Spring break is coming up. I know you have friends coming down from up north, so don't forget about the best-kept secret in Martin County. Come by boat, car, or stroll the boardwalk to explore what is the best-kept secret. The boardwalk features local artists and Airbnb, art gallery, boat charters, marina, a craft and creamery that features craft beers, wine, and 24 flavors of ice cream, something for the entire family. While you're there, you can rent bikes, you can rent paddle boards. They have a marina, so you can come by boat. This great place, it's the Fish House Art Center. It's located in the Pocket in Port Salerno. Look them up online, thefishhouseartcenter.com, or give them a call, 221-5482. All righty, so it is so wonderful to have you in the studio today, and I see you all around town all the time. I'm running into you at all kind of different functions, so I know you're one busy guy, right?
We stay busy, yes.
There's always something, and right now in Martin County, there's a lot of things that are going on, and before we start asking questions about Chief Deputy John Budensiek. He's a career law enforcement officer who has served the citizens of Martin County for 25 years. He began his career at the Martin County Sheriff's Office in 1997 as a uniformed deputy on road patrol. Throughout his career, he served as narcotics detective and on SWAT, starting as an entry team member and working through the ranks to become the SWAT team commander. His career also includes working in every supervisory rank within the Sheriff's Office, supervising narcotics, Marine, K-9, Aviation, and the Uniform Road Patrol Division. He currently oversees all departments at the Martin County Sheriff's Office. Chief Budensiek is a graduate of Martin County Leadership Class 30. He has a Bachelor of Science degree in Criminal Justice from Columbia Southern University and has studied at IRSC and the University of Virginia. He is also a graduate of the FBI National Academy. The chief is a lifetime Martin County resident who lives in Hobe Sound with his wife and 4 children. That's quite a distinguished career, and it's pretty impressive that you've been in all the different units.
I'm just me and Sheriff Crowder, with the advice or the recommendation of Captain Snyder at the time, took a gamble and hired me at 19 years old.
19.
And I've had a blessed and fulfilled career serving here in Martin County, and I thank the good Lord for allowing me to work here and do what we do here and continue to do what we do here.
Well, I think about that from 97 till now, and I haven't even been here that long myself, not since 97, but
right.
the changes I've seen in the last 12 years has been incredible. But since '97, I think one of the things everybody's screaming about right now is the traffic and the speeders.
Well, I feel their pain. I've been here my whole life. Martin County was a quieter, more rural community, but things have changed, and unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to go backward. We have to kind of adapt with the times, and it's not just Martin County. I read our Facebook comments. I look at the news just like everybody else does. There's a lot going on that affect that. Of course, you have Palm Beach County that grew up into Martin County. We were like
Right.
the last stand. I still think we are. I think we're going to keep it that way, try to. But then Port St. Lucie exploded with growth, and they continue to build. And we're this beautiful spot in the middle where people can't afford to live necessarily. I mean, the medium
Right.
home price is over $500,000, so a lot of employees.
It is.
On top of the 160,000-ish people that live here in Martin County, there's a lot of people that come here to work and then go home. So that adds to our traffic nightmare scenario. And it is a nightmare. We're dealing with traffic crashes all day, every day. You see we've been posting some of these severe traffic
Yes.
crashes, trying to get people to slow down. We're writing tickets all day. We have a traffic unit that's solely dedicated to that, and it still does not seem to be curbing the traffic issues that we have here.
Well, you think about there's just a few, veins that run
There are.
into Martin County from St. Lucie County. I know Murphy Road
Sure.
over in Palm City has got a tremendous amount of traffic all of a sudden. Of course, US 1 is the main one, and
Yep.
that's where so many issues happen. Indian River Drive. Just last week you had the accident with I think 5 people ejected.
Yes.
I mean, we all know about the other accidents that had fatalities on US 1. And my question was, how can you even be going over 100 miles an hour in the middle of the day on US 1? It's just mind-boggling to me that it could even possibly even get close to that speed.
Yes, I know, and it's hard. I drive that route regularly up and down US 1, and how you can get going that fast is beyond me also. But these cars that we're driving nowadays, they're so much faster. They accelerate so much faster, and there's no wiggle room anymore. When we were kids, we had fast cars also, and we did stupid things. But there was some leeway for mistakes. Now there's too many cars, there's too many intersections. It's not the olden days, and we have to drive responsibly or bad things can happen. And that's why we highlight these crashes that are taking place. People don't know or they wouldn't know that a crash happened at Savannah Road and Gents Beach Boulevard in the middle of the night had
Right.
we not put it out there.
Right.
But it's affecting a lot of people here in the county, unfortunately.
Well, Chief Budensiek, I have to say this. A couple things. The Martin County Sheriff Facebook page is amazing. Whoever does that, by the way, they're incredible.
Christine Weiss, we'll give her props.
Christine Weiss,
She does a
you
good
are
job, yes,
amazing.
yes.
I love your post, and they make it very engaging,
Right.
and so it's wonderful. But beyond that, highlighting these accidents has made me myself drive more defensively.
Right.
When I'm at a red light and it turns green, I don't just go anymore. I actually almost got T-boned doing that once,
Right,
and that was
right.
part of it as well. But I look, you even though you're in the right, if you die, who's there to argue?
No one,
Who
yeah.
is right or wrong? So it's really important that people drive defensively now, and I think your post helped highlight that there are idiot drivers out there, and I'm going to call them that. And that's they endanger everybody's lives. So you hopefully can look out for yourself. And
Well, I concur with you. I have my own family driving around. I have 2 children that drive. My wife drives, so I'm constantly worrying about them. I worry about our deputies. They drive all day, 12-hour shifts. They drive all day long, so I worry about them being
Right.
injured in a crash unnecessarily. So, we're aware of what's going on. We can't change the times. There's going to be more and more traffic, but we are trying to allocate more resources towards traffic control.
how many deputies does the sheriff department employ now? Do you know?
Yes, we have 288 sworn deputies. That's just the deputies that carry badges and guns. It doesn't include the corrections facility. We have deputies there, a little over 100 there, and then our civilian side. So Martin County Sheriff's Office as a whole is right around 600 employees now.
600 employees.
Yes.
How many deputies are out on a shift that are patrolling the county? Do you know?
I do. There's 18 deputies assigned just to road patrol. That's not their supervisors. So 18 plus 3 supervisors. And then on top of that, we have a dedicated traffic division. So normally in the daytime, you'll see the motor unit out there writing citations. We have an aggressive driving unit that works with them. They're responsible for working all the traffic crashes and writing citations and slowing speeders down. That's their daytime function. At nighttime, they do a hybrid of traffic control, writing tickets, and then they kind of switch into that DUI role because that's when we get the majority of our impaired drivers.
And you also seem to be nabbing a lot of thieves, and that's something that it seems like a lot of them are coming up from South counties or other places. They're trying to run in off the exit real quick.
Grab and go.
Yeah, grab and go. But it's amazing, our sheriff's department. I mean, don't fool with Martin County. I have to say, you guys are out there, and you have the helicopter that helps heat sense to find these folks, and you get them.
We do our best. Well, we're under the gun constantly. It's not the olden days again where it's quiet, sleepy town. People realize that there's money and resources and there's things to come and get here, and we fight it every day. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, we woke up to boat burglaries yet again of Garmin GPS thefts that took place right off of High Meadows. They got off 95 likely and jumped right back on. That was at midday. Stewart Police Department had what they call a jugger. You probably don't even know what a jugger is, but a jugger essentially is somebody that goes to a bank, does surveillance on the bank, and watches people carry envelopes of cash out, and then they follow that person to their house or wherever they leave that cash and then do a burglary. So they had a jugger that did a burglary, ended up doing a car burglary, stole the money, $4,500, and a firearm out of the car. And our units actually caught that person at the mall. That was a person out of Miami. Later that day, we had another car came through, stolen out of Miami. Ended up getting that car with St. Lucie County's help in St. Lucie County. Later that night, we had another car stolen out of the Orlando area come through. So it's nonstop of these traveling criminals coming through our county, and that's on top of what we're discussing. Traffic, regular calls for service, just what's going on here. So we're busy. We're staying extremely busy.
You never know what you're going to run into. I always feel for our officers, our men in blue or green. You don't know who you're going to run into. You don't know if they're high on drugs or not. And, sometimes when they're high on drugs, they can't be reasoned with.
Right.
You don't know what you're dealing with sometimes with people, and you get a lot of police officers unfairly, I think, get a lot of criticism of, well, you handled that person too rough. But when someone's on drugs, sometimes there is no controlling them.
You're right, and it's drugs, especially nowadays, combined with mental illness. And what came first, the chicken or the egg? Are they mentally ill because of drugs, or did they take drugs because they're mentally ill? Unfortunately, it doesn't matter because our deputies have to deal with that person the same way. They have extreme mood swings. They're happy, they're mad, they're fighting. And then a lot of times they're extremely strong, even smaller persons. So you see these 3 deputies on top of a person, and you're like, well, that's disproportionate. It's a disproportionate use of force. Well, I don't agree with them. They're not the ones there feeling this small person who is jacked up on methamphetamine or whatever they've taken, and our deputies have to subdue them. They're constantly dealing with the mentally ill and these people that are high.
And you never know what you're going to be dealing with, even coming down, the highway. And we've had some real tragedies there, certainly because you think you're out being a good Samaritan helping, and it turns tragic sometimes because of that person with either drugs or a mental illness, what have you. Boy, oh boy, I'm telling you what, you're opening my eyes. Just what you see in a day is absolutely incredible. I mean, you don't know what you're going to run into or walk into, but this jugger issue, that's the first time I've heard of this. What can people do to maybe be aware that, hey, somebody might be following you out at the bank because they saw you make a withdrawal?
So education, like what we're doing here, we're educating the public of, hey, this is an issue. You would think you go to the bank, you're minding your own business, but you really have to pay attention nowadays to who is around you. The jugger thing in particular, know when you go into the bank to put your money in your pocket or put it where they can't see it overtly when you walk out. You're not flagging it for them. And then wherever you're going to go, take that money and put it in a safe place. They're relying on people being naive and feeling that sense of security, which we want to provide, but they have to help us help them in these scenarios. So they just have to be educated that that's a possibility.
Well, I think Martin County in particular, we always feel safe here. And I can actually always remember when Sheriff Snyder first ran for sheriff. I lived over on, it was Pine Tree Lane. And, I had my door wide open, the garage was open, the car was unlocked in the driveway with the keys in there. And, he walked up and said he's running for sheriff. He's like, all your doors are unlocked. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you really shouldn't do that. But I just felt so safe. And it wasn't that long after that where the pillowcase burglars started coming and just intruding on the area. And they didn't hit my house, fortunately, but they hit homes on my street. And that's another thing where people are coming at night watching your habits and, deciding when they can break into your house because they know when you're going to leave for work or who's home.
I'm not trying to make a political statement, but the lack of law enforcement, well, the pressure is on for law enforcement south of us. But from Dade County through Palm Beach County, on the state attorney's side, the penalties aren't high. So these criminals are coming here thinking that the same thing is going to happen to them that happened to them in the other judicial circuits. That's not the case. Our circuit has done a really good job of coming along, law enforcement, our citizens here, and putting people in prison for these crimes. But we're constantly getting the uneducated ones, and they just keep coming, thinking they're going to get the same slap on the wrist that they got down south and take advantage of us. So we're trying to educate them, but it's really a full-time job right now dealing with them.
Well, you never know who's coming off that highway, and they don't follow your Facebook page like we do here locally, so they don't know who they're running into when they pull off that
they
hashtag wrong exit.
Some of them do. We've actually had some entertaining instances where they figured out that they're actually in Martin County. It's dawned on them. We've had hardened criminals, I'm not making this up, actually crying in our interview room, realizing that they actually hit the wrong exit. So, and they're actually going to go to jail for this. So
Good.
You
know what? It makes me happy too, and I know the community just loves our sheriff's department and everything that you guys have done. And I have to talk about as well with road patrol. There's the city of Stewart as well, so
Right.
we even have more officers on the road, and I think you probably overlap a little bit. I mean, you're sheriff, so you can go anywhere in the county.
We do, so we can go anywhere, like you said, in the county. They have to work within their city parameters. But again, yesterday is an example of they have a crime that happened in their city. They communicate that out to the county, and we actually apprehended that individual for them. But we have a good working relationship. I talk to their chief on a regular basis, Chief Tuminelli, their town manager, former Chief Diaz.
Yes.
So we work together well and try to move information around, and hopefully it's seamless from the community looking up. Hopefully it's seamless from their point of view.
Well, from my point of view, it certainly is. Let's talk a little bit about the waterways. That's
Yes.
something I know you have a wonderful marine unit out there as well. And there's a lot to patrol, and you never know what's going to happen on the waterways or
Correct.
who's coming through. So tell us a little bit about what that unit does.
So we have 200 square miles of water here in Martin County. It's a lot of water.
It's a lot of
It
water.
goes all the way from the ocean clearly out into the middle of Lake Okeechobee. If you look at a map of Martin County, there's like a triangle out into the lake. We don't generally go that far out unless we're called out because there's just not that much boating activity out there. Our focus really is kind of seasonal. So right now we're in the fishing season. We're out there protecting our fishermen, making sure that they can safely navigate the waters. And then, of course, in the summertime, our marine deputies are nonstop really monitoring the sandbars north and south. We have one in Tequest, so the north end of Tequest, which is Martin County. We have one here in
Right.
Stewart. And then the beaches are flatter so people can go out into the ocean there. So they're full-time, and they do dual duty. They do law enforcement work. They do some fish and game work. They work with fish and game. Of course, they're dealing with turtles that get wrapped up in nets, and you saw the whales a couple weeks ago. They try to monitor that, and dolphins. And so that's kind of a cool function of their job. And then a lot of times, unfortunately, but fortunately for a lot of people, we're the first responders on both fires and medical calls. So if you saw our Facebook page here a couple of months ago, we have a fire pump on our boat. We're able to go rescue this gentleman before he succumbed to his injuries in a fire. We're the first responders just because we have the manpower to be out. Not quite 24/7, but almost 24/7.
Yeah, you certainly are, and you're stationed around the water, and I have to think that's probably, I would think it's a unit that your people appreciate as well
Yes.
here in Florida. I mean, waters are, there's a breeze for one thing. It's nice, but it's a beautiful place, and it's just also a very important border that we need to watch here for. It's not only Martin County, but the state of Florida. Lisa, appreciate you tuning in. She said, please ask why the woman who attacked 2 citizens was allowed to get out on bond, and what are the guidelines. That might be the one in the shopping center. You guys posted on your Facebook page.
Yes, so I'm going to assume that is the one. So we don't have the leeway to keep somebody in jail. When you go to jail, you have the presumption of innocence. So you go to jail unless it's a second or higher degree felony, actually first degree felony. You generally have the option of having bond, and that's not set by us. We have a bond schedule. You go to jail, we give you the bond that's on our bond schedule. The judge can either reduce that bond or raise that bond. But generally, unless they commit a crime like a murder or an aggravated sexual battery or something at that degree, people do have bond pending their right to go to trial or plea out on that case. So we have no control if they bond out. Now,
That's
they're not
tough.
getting slaps on the wrist and getting RRR, released on your own recognizance, but they're bonding out, and we can't stop them from doing that.
Yeah, and it's got to be a little frustrating too. It's on tape. It's I know it's innocent until proven guilty, but it's on tape. But still, it's truly up to the judge as far as what you just said, what the bond is set at. And
Right. But so that doesn't mean that she's out forever. She will face that charge, and I seriously doubt she'll get a slap on the wrist. I would venture to say she'll end up going to jail or prison for an extended period of time.
it was a completely unprovoked video, folks, and if you can go to the Martin County Sheriff Department to see it, but she completely unprovoked and just started beating up the women, so it was awful.
Good question, though.
Yes, Lisa, thank you. She said, albeit I'm forever grateful for your daily protection of us, and thank you for the clarification.
Absolutely.
So there's always things like that's going on. What about folks, you're driving around. When you walked in today, I'm like, you know what I just saw? Two people running the red light and blocking lanes, and citizens. How important are they, and when should they contact the Sheriff's Department when they see something that's awry?
Citizens are our lifeline, and that's the message we try to drive home. We're out patrolling, but unless you tell us sometimes where to patrol or what the issues are, we can't fix it. And especially nowadays, we're living in a time where people have video surveillance at their house, they have it in their cars. If you share that with us, we'll do our best to track back the issue and help you mitigate it. Now, a lot of the tension driving, aggressive driving, that's not something we can go back in the rears, even if you have a video and enforce it. But if you say, hey, there's a intersection that's regularly clogged here, we can go and put pressure on that through our traffic unit. And so, yes, citizens calling us, if you see something, say something, anything. People are like, well, we know you're busy, we don't want to impose on
Right.
you. But if you see something that's odd, you live in your neighborhood, you know what's right, you know what's wrong. If it's not right to you, call us and we'll figure it out. Worst case scenario, there's nothing to it. We clear the call and we move on. But we've solved the majority of our cases like that.
And you never know what you're going to run into. And again, it's better to be safe than sorry, I figure. So,
For sure.
again, we're speaking with Chief Deputy Budensiek, and appreciate you coming in here today. And just tell us a little bit about maybe some of the stories over the years that impacted you the most. Maybe a lighthearted story.
I think one of the more entertaining ones was I was in Jensen Beach on road patrol back in the 90s, and ironically, Jensen Beach was a haven for crack. You probably don't know this, but crack was a big deal. There was a different dynamic back then, and I stopped a gentleman who I knew who was crippled. He was in a wheelchair, and we'd been around and around on previous occasions. This time he was going to jail, so he was a little fella. I picked him up, said, hey, we're going to jail. Okay, so I picked him up. He wasn't handcuffed. Carried him to the back of his car. I took a break, set him on his bumper, got my breath, picked him up again, carried him to the back door of my patrol car, opened the door, and said, hey, sit down. At which point he took off running down the road.
Oh, my goodness.
So this crippled guy was miraculously healed. Now we're in a foot chase running down Jensen Beach Boulevard. I look like an idiot out there chasing this guy.
After you were carrying him.
Yeah, but I ended up running him down and catching him and taking him to jail. Long story short, he was involved in a several $100,000 scam with the VA, scamming them out of VA benefits. He had never served in the military, so he said he was in the military, and he said he was crippled because of the military, and he was scamming them. So long story short, he ended up being indicted federally and sent off to federal prison. But that's just one of my...
Much bigger issue than what he was
exactly.
initially in trouble for.
One of my more entertaining stories. A lot of what we do is serious, but we do enjoy doing what we're doing what we do, even though it is a serious business that we're in.
Well, what I find really unique and wonderful is the fact that you've started here in Martin County, but this is your home.
It is.
And do you have any plans of ever leaving Martin County or looking for a job elsewhere?
On vacation only.
There we go.
So, no, I'm a lifetime Martin County resident. I put my whole career and myself into Martin County. I plan to stay here and see it out. And I enjoy doing what I do. I'm still young. I started young. I've been here 25 years, yes, but I started young enough where I have a lot left in me. So I look forward to staying here and continuing to work here.
Well, again, we're speaking with Chief Deputy John Budensiek. Again, I've seen you all over around town,
Right.
so it's wonderful, and I do hope that continues. That I foresee that you'll be involved with the community for a very long time here in the future, and I'd love to have you back on the show. We're winding down; we got about 5 minutes, but I'd love to have these updates. And I saw one of the divisions that you worked with was the SWAT division.
Yes.
That was something. Like last year, I've seen a little less of it this year, but this fake SWAT calls. And I know that's involved your department, and that's just got to be devastating financially as well as for everybody involved, because those resources may be needed somewhere else. If you can talk about that scam.
Yeah, so real quick, swatting calls are just for entertainment purposes for the people that are calling in. So they call in a realistic call that shots are fired and somebody's down, somebody's being held hostage is normally the scenario. And of course, we initially responded appropriately, which at that time was immediately calling out the SWAT team, immediately calling out the big guns, so to speak.
Helicopters, the whole works.
Yeah, the whole thing. So now we kind of know what to look for, spoof phone numbers. So our analysts are looking back at that real quick, just seeing where the call came from. We're calling the businesses. A lot of times they're the businesses trying to figure out if it's actually happened. So we're trying to get in front of the over-response without under-responding in the event something catastrophic has actually happened. So it's put us in a precarious spot of making sure we, again, don't over-respond. We initially were responding to private residences of people that had done nothing wrong and were minding their own business, doing their own thing throughout the day. And then we roll in extremely heavy, ready to take care of business. So we're trying to find the balance. It's hard to do. It really endangers the public and our people.
It does. It's a fine line to walk. And, it actually happened on my street last year. That's how I
Right.
know. And it was in a gated community, and it was somebody that was trying to hustle some money from
Right.
that owner. And they said, we're going to do this if you don't pay me. So luckily they didn't pay him. But it's a scary thing for folks, too. And there's been circumstances, not here in Martin County, but other places where it turned out bad for the person that got swatted. They
Yes.
thought it was a real situation. And, I know some people were actually killed over it that were completely innocent. So it's a serious thing out there. And I did notice it had decreased. So I appreciate that, you guys are trying to figure out a way to sift through to find out what's real and what's not. So
We still get them. We had one, I believe, last month, but we figured it out on the onset. The initial deputies figured it out going there through our analysts and our dispatchers. So again, it's a work in progress.
what about working with the schools? We just had superintendent of the schools on right before you, and I know a lot of the crossing guards work through the sheriff's department. How is that working out? Do you need more folks out there?
We need more supervisors. We need more folks. So we stood that unit up essentially overnight. There was a really strong school resource officer unit, about 10 deputies. When the Stoneman Douglas Act came out, we went from 10-ish to 31
Wow.
overnight. So that took resources off the road. We put them in the school. Happy to do it. Wouldn't change a thing. We have a great working relationship with the school. Dr. Millay, his chief of security, constantly dealing with our SROs. It's all day, every day, because we get threats, we get sexting, texting, just all the issues that come with having thousands of younger individuals that aren't all thinking clearly. And we deal with that on a daily basis. Basically, we're running a small police department within the school system. And if we didn't have it, Lord only knows the issues that would be arising out of the current day situations and the copycat crimes that are going on. Again, the texting, sexting, all the other crazy stuff that's happening.
There's so many things, and there's other things I wanted to talk about, and I got on other topics, so I would love to have you back. I know, apps out there is something I'd love to discuss with you in the future for parents to be able to, be aware of for their children. So, again, we've been speaking with Chief Deputy John Budensiek of the Martin County Sheriff's Department. What a pleasure it's been, and very informative. Next week, Mike Circus is going to be on, and then the week after that, one of my favorite shows, the 4-H'ers, will be here to talk about the fair, and then Dr. Anzalone with IRSC will be on the week after that. Dr. Budensiek. Deputy Budensiek, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.